All right, what up? What up? Welcome back. I don't know if you saw my film analysis on Zach Wilson, but I'm going to be doing a similar thing with Spencer Rattler in his 2020 season. If you haven't seen that video on Zach Wilson, then go ahead and give it a watch. I think it's pretty well done. It is a little bit longer. I'll try to make this one a bit shorter. But yeah, I'll go ahead and I'm going to show three good plays that I think exemplify some of Spencer Rattler's strengths, as well as three bad plays that I think exemplify some of his weaknesses. And also, you see some of those strengths and weaknesses in both sides of the good and bad. So go ahead and hop into it. I watched both of his Florida and his Iowa State game and picked out some plays from each of those games that I think really kind of show what he's good and bad at. So first play, one of his biggest strengths is his ability to throw the ball downfield. He has one hell of an arm talent. He can chuck the ball real deep. So you can see here he throws it from the 35, gets it down to the 5-yard line on a dime where only 14 can catch it. Obviously 14 doesn't make the catch, but that is an absolutely beautiful throw. Not many NFL level quarterbacks can do that, let alone collegiate level quarterbacks. But he throws this thing from the 35 down to the 5-yard line. Absolute dot. I mean, that does not get any better. Obviously 23 gets a little bit of a hand on it, but that pass cannot be any better than it actually is. And obviously 14 doesn't catch it. Not the easiest catch in the world, but if you're going to throw a dime like that, you just pray that your receiver is going to be able to catch the ball, because that is just special, absolutely special. Pretty simple play action shot play from Oklahoma here. They're going to have number one on a go route, number two on a skinny post, and then a crosser coming from the other side. You're usually going to read this kind of right to left, peek at this go route, see if you like the matchup or if he just beats number 26 off the ball. Then go to this number 14. If you see that that safety kind of dives down, or if that safety just isn't able to get over top of that post route, then you're usually going to be able to throw that play action post. Then come to the crosser after that. Obviously, Spencer Rattler decides to throw to that post, even though it's kind of a tight window, and he just throws an absolute dime. Unfortunately, it wasn't caught, but great play. Really shows off his arm strength and his arm talent as a quarterback prospect and as a collegiate player in general. So, second play on the list here. I think you get some of the good and some of the bad with this play. So this is a basic sail concept from Oklahoma here. They're going to have a go from number one, a sail from number two, and then some kind of just quick game concept on the backside that I'm assuming that he's just looking for some kind of blitzing backer for in case he can get an easy hitch or get an easy slant off of this. But play action handoff, rolls out a little bit, throws an absolute dime on the run, off platform with someone in his face. You see he does a little rollout here, has number one in his face. He's kind of leaning back, throws this ball, even though 12's pretty wide open. Still not an easy catch, and it shows his arm strength, able to get the ball out there to a pretty deep out route and complete that pass, regardless of someone being in his face and not having his feet planted. However, my concern with this play is I don't think this is a designed rollout by the quarterback due to the blocking scheme. You see number 54, the guard here, comes over to block, or pulls to block the end, and number 59 kind of comes inwards. That's not usually a scheme you're going to see when you're designing your quarterback to roll out to the right. Usually you want number 59 to be reach blocking here. So that's what concerns me, that he sees this blitz here, and even though he doesn't have anyone in his face, he escapes the pocket and kind of gets antsy in the pocket, which is a common theme you're going to see with some of his weaknesses and some of his bad plays, is that he escapes the pocket with even like the slightest hint of pressure. But yeah, they bring 5 here, and he has a pretty clean pocket. Like, yeah, this backer could get to him if he held the ball for too long, but he pretty easily could have done a little 3-step drop and thrown it to number 12 here without, having anyone too much in his face, and he made this throw way more difficult on himself. But again, shows off his arm talent as well as his mobility, his arm strength, and his ability to throw the ball off platform on that play. All right, third good play I found from Spencer Rattler. Pretty simple read option play where they're going to be reading this D end right here. D end goes ahead and dives in. Spencer Rattler pulls the ball, is able to get the edge around 35 and score a touchdown. Showcases some of his mobility and his athleticism as a quarterback, which is kind of a new thing in the NFL, is that quarterbacks need to be mobile. And you may be not running as many read options as he did in this play, but the ability to get outside the pocket, make plays outside the pocket, be mobile enough to not just be a pure strict pocket passer is pretty important in the NFL now. You can see with Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, all these up and coming quarterbacks, Josh Allen, they're all able to move in some capacity and use their feet and their legs to their advantage. But you see this D end here is their main read. That D end is going to go ahead and fly in on the snap of the ball, and that's Spencer Rattler's key to pull the ball And then the receiver misses this block on his outside linebacker, and this is where he really showcases his athleticism. That, that linebacker has a pretty decent angle to get to Spencer Rattler, and Spencer Rattler is able to get around this, banana peel, get around that outside linebacker, and make a play out of what could have been easily just a 5-yard loss or a 3-yard loss, able to get a touchdown out of that play. So showcases some of his athleticism and his ability to work outside of the pocket. Now on to some of the plays that I didn't exactly like from Spencer Rattler. On this play, they have a pretty, it's a half-field concept where you're going to have number 3 on some kind of middle of the field sit dig route. He's going to get to the middle of the field somehow. Number 1 is going to be on a curl, and number 2 is going to be on a wheel, so a curl wheel concept, half-field concept. And my problem with this play is that, he has a pretty clean pocket right here, and while there's not really anyone open as of now, maybe he could have thrown 12 right here. He decided to escape the pocket with 3-man pressure, which is kind of concerning. This is theme of him being antsy in the pocket and kind of feeling pressure where there isn't pressure. However, he's able to use his mobility and athleticism and his arm talent to his advantage and make this throw to what would, where the wheel route stopped and came back to the ball. Be able to make a play out of what really was nothing, but and I'm not exactly sure what their reads on this are. Usually you wouldn't come back to this go on the backside as your 4th option, but if he's able to sit in this pocket and wait for a bit, he might be able to see a hole shot right here that he could hit, even though there's nothing on this side of the field. So it is just concerning, his tendency to escape the pocket when he doesn't necessarily need to. Also, he has this running back here as well that could you pretty easily just catch a little check down route and get 5 yards, 10 yards off that play. But instead he escapes the pocket, still makes a great play, but shows he does get a little bit antsy in the pocket, and that's kind of a reoccurring theme you're going to see through some of his weakness or weaker plays. So again, with the thing of him being antsy in the pocket, this is it's pretty much the exact same concept. Number 3 is going to get to the middle of the field somehow. Number 1 is going to be on a curl route, and number 2 is running a wheel. I think it's actually running a wheel stop where he runs that wheel, then he decides to stop at around the 50. But again, he has a 3-man rush on him, and he decides to escape the pocket when he doesn't need to. He steps up a bit, which is good to see. However, he can sit right there and continue looking at his reads. Obviously, I can't see if any receivers are open or not, but he could pretty easily work to his check down right here. He has a running back wide open. So it is concerning to see him not willing to sit in the pocket even with a 3-man rush, and he has no one in his face, no one's threatening him, and he decides to roll out, and he tries to make something out of nothing, and tries to fit a ball into this receiver in a tight window, and it should have been picked. That should have been picked. Luckily, 17's able to work the tip drill, and number 35 drops it, but he tries to get this ball over 34, isn't able to, it gets tipped, and number 35 comes by and almost picks this off. That should be an interception. All right, and then the final play that I want to show you guys is this is going to be another similar sail concept to what we looked at earlier. We're going to have a post by number 1 here, I believe, a skinny post, and then a sail route or a deep out route by number 2. It looks like either man coverage or cover 3. I can't exactly tell, but it doesn't really matter because in either of those coverages, you're going to have the corner on the number 1 receiver and the outside backer on the number 2 receiver in this sail concept. But, same does this play action fake, drops back, and he has no one in his face here. And I think they blitzed 1 middle linebacker. He has no one in his face, and he decides to, move around in the backfield, try to buy time when he doesn't need to. He could pretty easily just sit in the pocket, continue to go through his reads and his progressions and try to, complete a pass that way, as opposed to running around the backfield and eventually ending up just throwing it away and kind of having a wasted play. You don't want to see quarterbacks, getting antsy in the pocket like this when they only blitz 1 back or they only have a 4-man rush and there's no one in their face. And with this sail concept, obviously the camera angle is not the best, so I can't tell, but it seems like this sail route right here, you got a receiver on an outside linebacker, that should be, he should be able to throw this open pretty easily. If he puts his foot in the ground, throws it, to the bottom of the numbers right over here, he should be able to at least have a good chance of completing that ball. But instead he decides to, move around and try to buy time when he doesn't really need to. So again, Spencer Rattler just gets antsy in the pocket. Not a great thing to see out of an NFL prospect or a future NFL prospect. I guess my overall my overall analysis of Spencer Rattler is that he has all the physical talents needed to be a great collegiate quarterback as well as a great NFL quarterback. He's got elite arm strength and elite arm talent. You can see that. He threw a 60-yard bomb. Absolute dot to number 14 on that post route. Ended up being dropped, but still, that is an insanely impressive throw. As well as he has some great mobility. Ran that read option as well as his ability to move around and buy time in the backfield. Break tackles, get away from defenders, and make plays out of what would be nothing. is very impressive, and it's something you want to see out of a collegiate quarterback, as well as something that's almost a necessity out of NFL prospects nowadays. But some of the bad you see in Spencer Rattler, and it is not entirely his fault, but you don't see him make a lot of full field reads. He doesn't run a lot of full field concepts, and that might just be due to the way Oklahoma runs their offense. But again, you'd like to see an NFL prospect run those full field reads that you're going to see in the NFL. And he runs a lot of half-field concepts, a lot of very simple reads, and also, watching both these games, they run a lot of screens and a lot of, plays that just schematically get players open pretty easily. A lot of screens, a lot of smoke routes, a lot of really easy hitches, stuff that you're not going to be able to run as much in the NFL. And you wonder how much of his production is actually due to him running those pretty schematically easy to throw plays. And on the flip side, that is something that all college teams do. It's pretty easy to scheme players open in college football nowadays, especially when you have all the talent that Oklahoma has. But as an NFL prospect, it's not the greatest thing to see a lot of his production coming from those pretty easy screen passes and smoke screens and easy hitches to throw on the outside. You want to see a lot more difficulty in the throws. But again, that's not entirely his fault. That could be just due to Oklahoma's scheme and whatnot. And Oklahoma has done a great job of producing NFL quarterbacks lately with Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Jalen Hurts. So, what do I know? And then obviously the weakness that we saw in almost all of his plays is that he gets very antsy in the pocket. When he has no pressure in his face, or even if they just run a three-man rush and he has no one in his face, he kind of looks at his first read and then tries to scramble around and find a way to make a play out of nothing, when he could easily just sit in the pocket and continue through his progression and hit someone out of his progression, as opposed to trying to improvise when he doesn't need to. But yeah, that's my overall analysis of Spencer Rattler. Like I said, physical talent's off the charts. If he's able to fix some of his pocket presence problems, I think he could be the top quarterback in the next draft. I haven't looked at any other quarterbacks, so I'm not exactly sure where he ranks in mock drafts right now, but he is up there in the top prospects. He could easily be the top quarterback taken in next year's draft if he continues to work on these weaknesses that he has.